Hello and welcome to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce, where we connect with Troy Chamber members as they give us a glimpse into their company and share some of the business lessons they've learned along the way. Hi everyone, I'm Tara Thompson-Cusack, President and CEO of the Troy Chamber of Commerce, and I'm joined today by our amazing co-host and Vice President of the Chamber, Sheila Denstead.
Hello.
First, I'd like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. Stay tuned for our very first commercial break where you can learn how you can rely on Trion. So Sheila, we have a great guest ahead of us today. So why don't you give us a fun little intro of who we're meeting with?
I would be honored to. Today we're meeting with Moneesa Credle, founder of Intrepida Consulting. She brings nearly 20 years of experience to her work with CEOs and executive teams around the globe to revolutionize how they work together. She's convinced of this. Every CEO and every executive team should be strong, cohesive, and a source of inspiration in the organization they serve. After all, the fate of any organization, regardless of its industry, rises and falls based on how cohesive the leadership team is and how well they take that cohesion and collectively, as a team, reach the next echelon of success the organization has tasked them to achieve. Teams who can truly work together have a significant, competitive advantage over teams who do not. And also, if you guys could see the amazing shoes she's wearing today, I would be so excited for you. Moneesa, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much, everyone. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I will say that might be the most motivating bio I've ever heard. It's normally like, this is what I do. This is you talking about how the world can be better if people are paying attention. So I find your bio very inspiring. So thank you for that already.
Yes, thank you.
But to first get things started, what are some of the problems that your consulting services help solve?
Yes. So leaders come to me, and we just happen to, the way of the world cross paths, but I help them to basically optimize an opportunity that's in front of them, but also the way that opportunities are somewhat rolled in a way that they appear as problems when they come to us, right? I help them solve problems related to how people within their organization work together. And many times, let's say you can have a problem with your sales team or your engineering team or technology, et cetera. And the root cause of that problem is actually within people who occupy those roles. So I've seen organizations, whether during my professional experience prior to becoming a consultant or even with clients, that a company can be missing the mark on goals that are truly within their reach, not because people don't know how to do the job, but simply because there's a human element where there's a lack in the business relationship, the professional relationship of members of the team, that the output of that is actually a business problem.
Interesting. Well, and I would assume like those types of things, like you said in the very beginning, it's like the vision and the cohesiveness.
Right.
How do you help them identify where that cohesion maybe isn't matching up?
Sure. So it all starts with, I like to understand what is the root cause of that. So what I'll do is that first of all, whenever I meet a leader, I like to have a simple call with them, understand the context of their organization, understand their team, understand anything that's going great, anything that maybe isn't going great. And just from having done this for a while, I'll send them through some very thoughtful assessments if I need additional data. But usually by speaking with someone, I have, I guess, just the intuition of knowing, this is probably a pressure point that we really haven't explored yet. So it's a combination of just from having done this and then also using some very thoughtful assessments that help us dig deeper, that gives us a shared common language around the challenges that we're seeing.
Wow.
Moneesa, I'm reading here you have 20 years of experience in this field. So you started when you were, 18? How does this inform your approach and what makes it unique and effective for everyone?
Sure. So the thing about my approach is that I'm a very authentic person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I don't know something, I'm going to admit it. Same thing at the same time, if a colleague, let's say if a client basically is facing a challenge, I will tell them the kind truth. I mean, I'm not going to insult them.
You're bad at your job, sir.
Right, but I'll say it in a very kind way. That may be the case, but I will say it in a kind way without fear of me looking inferior in that moment, without the fear of being embarrassed. and without the fear of losing their business.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I become just another yes person, I mean, it's hard being a leader, and I want to be at least one person who's guaranteed to tell them the kind truth. And at the same time, I want to help their team become cohesive enough in the way that they show up in an authentic way that they'll be able to tell their leader the kind truth. And then it goes all the way up the rest of the way of the organization.
Well, and I would have to assume that a lot of people in leadership roles, they struggle getting real feedback.
Yes.
Because a lot of I spend my time with my husband and Sheila. Mm-hmm. I'm hopeful that Sheila pretty much gives me the feedback that, like, Tara, come on, like, you got to simmer down. That's not the smart. Like, and you do. You give me the feedback. But I would assume that it's hard you have to develop these relationships for long periods of time. Where having somebody from the outside come in and say, hey, I'm identifying these things, where maybe a teammate wouldn't feel comfortable necessarily to do that, where I think that's such a strong skill and something really a lot of leaders need.
Yes. And here's the thing. It all starts with the mindset of, if you come to a situation where you see feedback as being a gift, you're more likely to receive it.
Yeah.
And it really boils down to, it may be someone's preference to not give feedback, but I always tell my clients, you have to be clear, continuously be self-aware in a professional way of what is my preference versus what does the work require.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, guys, I think this is a good moment. Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. We'll be right back.
My name is Kamal Shohaib. I am the owner of Choice Properties and the Choice Group, and we do business in 5 states. We started dealing with Trion about 10 years ago, and they were highly recommended. We like to deal with companies that care about the community that they do business with, and we feel Trion does that because we witness the wonderful things that they do for the community on so many levels. And that is why we rely on Trion.
You can always rely on Trion.
Welcome back to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. We're here with Moneesa. So Moneesa, tell me a little bit about how you help transform a team. What is the process you follow? Is it tailored to each unique situation? I would assume all teams aren't created equally. So,
True.
How do you do this?
Yes, so I'm very blessed and fortunate to, in addition to being the founder and principal consultant of Intrepida Consulting, I'm also a member of Pat Lancioni's Table Group.
Okay.
So I use quite a few of the Table Group methodologies around, like Pat wrote The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which has been out for over 20 years.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide bestseller. So I'm using Table Group processes, but at the same time, we tailor that to what each team needs. So it starts off with, let's say, we typically start with about a 90-day engagement. Within those 90 days, we have 2 days of going in depth. Prior to that 90 days, I like to spend time getting to know the team and the leader. Mm-hmm. And after the 2 days together of going in depth, this is one of the differences between one-off coaching or training versus consulting is that it's not, okay, hey, we've had 2 days together. Mm-hmm. See you later. Have a great work life. I hope you achieve everything that I told you
High five.
that you needed to do. No, that's not the approach. I definitely stick around to, it's almost like let's say when you're learning something new, that I stick around as a guide for the team to make sure that the work that we've done remains sticky. So for transformation happens when first it becomes just awareness of, oh, okay, we are aware that we are not cohesive. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, like I'm learning something new about my colleagues in terms of them having vulnerability-based trust with me. And vulnerability-based trust, it's not predictive trust of, oh, I know that whenever I have the opportunity to be on Members on the Mic, I'm going to have this amazing bottle of water and no, that's predictive trust. Correct. We say vulnerability-based trust, where you're willing to take a risk in the relationship, not knowing that you're going to get that same level of vulnerability back. It's not transactional. Yeah. So if members of a team are able to have vulnerability-based trust, it ultimately lets them to have healthy conflict, not, let's say, Jerry Springer over the top rope kind of conflict, but
different.
Very different. And that it's a healthy ideological debate in pursuit of the truth, like the best answer. And here's the thing, when you have vulnerability-based trust, you see your colleagues as real people behind the teams meeting, behind the Zoom meeting. You care about them enough as a person that you're willing to give them peer-to-peer feedback because you care about the shared collective results that you and the team are trying to reach for the organization that you have the mantle of responsibility of leading. But all of that starts off with the awareness of, oh, we have some work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it becomes theoretical knowledge of like, okay, we're starting to get the hang of it. And then basically they buy in, hey, I've got it. I'm ready. How do I do this? And then they become practitioners of it. So I'm not the kind of consultant that stays around forever and ever and ever. But ultimately, I want to get my clients on a good start, that I give them a journey and a roadmap that's customized to them. And then as they proceed, they get to the point that they're able to do this work on their own. And I'm only, let's say, almost like a resource that you call in as needed, and I keep in touch with them. So really, part of the work that I do is that it's so important for me to be eye to eye with the leader, because if you start trying to do this work, let's say from the office of the VP of paper clips in a company.
Ouch.
No offense.
Hey, paper clips are great.
Yes,
so that's a needed entity.
And no offense to anyone who is a VP of paper clips, right? That's probably in fan fiction of the movie Office Space, right?
He keeps things together.
Yeah, keeps things
There you
together.
go.
Who sits next to the guy with the red swing line stapler?
Exactly,
Hello,
exactly.
right? So the point of that is that if you try to start cultural transformation without the CEO being involved, you've almost created a revolution.
Yeah.
And not the kind that
You
we're
want.
going for. No, not at all. And that's why being eye to eye with the leader and the CEO is so important, because they are the people who are leading the charge of this. And it has to have their voice. It has to have their raison d'être, reason
Yeah.
for being. It has to become part of how they lead.
Well, and one thing too, I know I'm jumping a little bit on this one, but we're talking through a lot of change management.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously leaders itself, from a leadership coaching perspective, that's a lot of it. A lot of it is fundamentally you want the leader to change so you can adapt and become a better company.
Right.
But sometimes it is very situational. So
Very.
Can people work with you as well as they're doing a brand new transformation within their organization and
Yes.
they need that help to get that kind of I'm using ADKAR, but
Sure.
those change management models to make sure people are paying attention to it, that desire happens. How is that something that you do as well?
Yes, definitely. So here's the element. Any organization that goes from one level to the next level of success, that's a change. And it's very important for leaders to navigate change well. So if you think of just any organization that maybe did not succeed in the marketplace, I mean, I'm sure that there could be Harvard Business Review case studies, et cetera, written about them. If you really look back, you can see two things. One, they probably had a problem within the human element of their leadership team that festered and came out as a business problem. And two, they probably didn't navigate change very well. So whenever an organization, let's say, here's a thought. Whenever a leader goes through a change, the organization is also going through a change, just because of the magnitude of that position holding that much sway on the organization. And so I would just say, I'm the kind of, let's say it's within my ethos as being a tailored consultant of consult but don't sell. I'll tell you something right now that listeners can apply. If you're going through change, one, be mindful, be aware that this is a change, a transition, but know that a change has an ending, it has a neutral zone, and then it has a new beginning. And whenever you go through an ending, there's varying types of loss. And it's so important that leaders understand they're going to be going through the transition at a much faster pace than everyone else because they're at the top of the organization. And they have to have I call it the perpetual responsibility to be professionally self-aware. Say that 5 times fast,
I
right?
don't think I can.
I know. I had to flowchart that in my mind in all humbleness. But here's the thing. Whenever you're going through a transition or a change, there's going to be a type of loss, and people experience different types of losses at different times and the way it impacts them. And so whenever an organization is going through a change, the leader needs to give people care and concern and basically give them a picture of why, like what it looks like on the other side. What is the purpose? What's our plan for getting there? And then be honest about, hey, this is the part that you have to play. And then the new beginnings will happen organically.
Makes sense.
So, taking in everything you said, our listeners right now are examining themselves as the leaders are saying, oh my God, what she's saying is true. How do I do? Is this me? Can you provide some examples or testimonials that showcase the results you've achieved?
Sure. So I've had the opportunity, this was actually not too long ago, I had the opportunity to work with a team that actually, they were a leaderless team. So they were more so trying to lead by committee. And here's the thing, I bring this up because I had to tell the CEO that if you have a team that is leaderless, you are putting them at risk to not have the clarity they need and the decision-making power that they need in order to be fully successful with every ounce of talent that they have. They're going to be struggling because they are going to sit and spin around trying to make a decision. So the outcome of my work with them, like we're still in process, so I can't tell you the name.
Of course, Sam.
Obviously. but the outcome is that we're basically probably on the path to having them name an actual leader for this team, because it's human nature, regardless of how you feel our origin story as humans came to be, but it's human nature that we have leaders in place. So that's one example. Another example is that I had a client that was here in Michigan. I won't say their name, but hey y'all, you know me. And it was really exciting to work with them because they were a newly formed leadership team in an organization that had been around for a while. So just changeover, coming together as a leadership team. And through our work, we were able to work together in building that vulnerability-based trust. And here's the thing about vulnerability-based trust. You are getting to know someone at the human level, and even teams that have worked together for a very long time, we do a few exercises on vulnerability-based trust, and they're like, oh my goodness, I learned something new about my colleague. And I'm like, yes, that is excellent. Like, that is the point, of course, right? But they came to see feedback as a gift. And that's something that, let's say, from a humility standpoint, that's one of the highest things that you can receive from your colleagues. Is that it's one thing if your boss gives you feedback, but if your colleagues give you feedback, and if it's well-intended feedback and it's not, oh, I'm trying to be menacing, type of thing. I mean, none of that, right? Nothing like that. Like nothing that you would see on The Office, right?
Yeah.
Like Dwight and Jim playing games, but truly heartfelt, authentic feedback. It can have an impact on your colleagues in a way that you wouldn't realize.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing: on a team, let's say for math, right? I was a business major, so don't ask me for math, right?
And you're in a room with like-minded people, on that
right?
one,
Yes.
so we're okay.
So let's say ballpark, let's say 10 people around a table, and if each person, let's say for lack of keeping the math simple, has 10 years of experience, if they work in a silo, their team only gets the benefit of their 10 years of experience. But if they're leveraging all the talents of their colleagues, that's a cumulative 100 years experience brain trust that they're not tapping into simply because, that's just like a I don't know, a visual in a way example of how having that interrelated team member relationship is so important. So that was one thing. Another thing, I had to write it down because I didn't want to get it wrong. Like I don't memorize things that people say to me. But there was a leader, a very well-known company. I won't say their name, just you've heard of them if I mention them. But this really meant a lot. She said, "Thanks so much for an incredible week with the team. I so appreciate you making the effort to come out. I had to go far somewhat." But she said, "I know the team continues to be inspired and engaged by you. Thank you." And that meant a lot because this team, they were a very big team. And that's another thing. contact me. I tell you, if your leadership team is too big, there truly is
Too
such
many
thing.
cooks.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. And we're not talking cooking for a battalion. Just if you have too many people, it makes decision making very challenging. But this team, even though, let's say they're a leadership team within a very large organization, but we have been working with them to transform to having healthier conflict, as we say, which is an outcome of having vulnerability-based trust. So we're getting there, definitely. And I've just been very fortunate to have had some great leaders that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I'm just excited about all the great ones I'll meet in the future.
Well, and it sounds like she had good feedback, which is always a gift.
Yes, it is a gift.
I'm going to keep using feedback as a gift.
Yes.
That's the one big nugget I'm going to take from this one. But I guess one of the questions I have is, how do people get started with you? Like, how do people take this journey with you and build a better company?
Yes. So you can find me. I'll put my email and my website in the show notes, but I'll spell it out. I have a designer name, as I call it, even though I'm not a designer. My name is Moneesa Credle, and my website is moneesacredle.com, and I'll spell that. That is MONEESA, C as in Charlie, RE, D as in Delta, LE.com. So if you reach out to me, it's a very simple step process of, first, we will get you on the calendar. We'll have a call on hopefully Zoom or Teams if you're local, or if I happen to be in a city near you, we can meet in person. But from that first call, I want to get to know the leader, understand the context of your team, and really unpack what's going on. And from that first call, in terms of having an approach to consult first, not just sell first, I want to give you some coaching and some tips that you can start applying right away. And then from there, we can work on like a customized and tailored roadmap to get your team started.
I love it.
Moneesa, I'm sitting here in awe. I am just like, this has been great information. I know our listeners are going to love it. If our leaders that are listening if you could give them one nugget of something they can incorporate right away, what would that be? Other than calling you right away.
Yes, please do call me. I'm not hard to find, as Coach Prime says. The first thing I would say is to definitely examine your motive for leading. Pat Lencioni has a book called The Motive, but just make sure that you're leading from a place of responsibility base in terms of the mantle of leadership, making sure that your heart is in it truly for the right reason. And the reason being is that the opposite of that, if you're leading more so for the prestige and the title, this journey will be even harder. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's like, oh, I'm up for a challenge, but I'm like, okay, it will be harder. But I've been very fortunate to work with leaders that are very responsibility-based and are in it for the right reason. And at the same time, I just want to let leaders know. I know you asked me for one. I'm going. I'm sorry.
Go.
I'm sorry. But I want them to know that, let's say, make sure that your team understands the passion that you have for the organization, because your passion, your heart can be a source of inspiration for others in ways that you don't know. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I was like, I'm happy with more than one nugget, so that's great. So thank you. Sure. So that's all we have here today on Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much, Moneesa. It was an absolute pleasure. I feel like I learned so much. I have a lot of nuggets of feedback, so I'm really excited about this one. I'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. If you're interested in joining the Troy Chamber of Commerce or would like to come to any of our upcoming events, go to troychamber.com. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.